Welcome back, crew. We are wrapping up the month with our review of Dragonbane, our December tabletop RPG of the month, produced by Free League Publishing. Today, we're going to be going through what we liked about the system, our roses, what we disliked about it, or just may not have clicked with us, our thorns, and things we're excited for this system in the future. One thing I do want to shout out, though, if you haven't had a chance, go check out our actual play of the Dragonbane system. Me and the crew had a blast. And we got to really kind of put the system through its paces and get to see what makes the system unique. There'll be a link down in the description. Definitely go check that out, especially if you want some context for the review too. Let's dive into it. So, kick it off. This is a remake of a 1982 Scandinavian game. So, really cool that they were able to bring this to the States and kind of revitalize a little bit and kind of give it new life as well. I thought that was really cool. It's kind of historical is a bad word because the 80s shouldn't be history, but it is kind of cool they're able to bring back an old RPG and give it a whole brand new audience. So that's definitely one of my favorite roses for this system. Just getting a chance to try this out and kind of see a different gameplay design. And it really fits, and even though it is kind of a different gameplay design, it really fits into that OSR feel. There's a couple things we'll touch on with that too, but definitely it has that kind of old school adventuring feel. Characters are easy to make, mechanics are there's some complexities to it, especially for compared to some other OSRs, which we'll get into. But overall, it's easy to pick up and teach somebody quickly, which was one of my favorite things for these because it's really easy to slot it into one shot or a short campaign, especially if you've got people that may be new to RPGs or even just wary about learning new tabletop RPGs. This is a great one, especially in pick on 5e a little bit. This is a great one if you wanted to bring people who were wary to learn about one, they've already learned one and wanted to kind of pick up another. This is a good bridge for that one because the D20 system, very easy to pick up and definitely something that can kind of show off the wide range of other RPGs. But my other favorite rose, and this one, and if you saw the first impressions video slash unboxing video, is the crazy amount of stuff Free League included with this game. Definitely, I'll throw a link in that video too. But they give you a map, they give you the core rule book, they give you a solo adventure book, they give you another adventure book that has like 10 adventures they can make into a campaign. You get the bestiary and the little like stands too, so like little pawns, I think they call them, where you can kind of put the little bestiary picture into the stand and put it to the tabletop in physical play. You got dice, you got adventuring cards, you got character sheets, like a ridiculous amount. It was like $50. So usually what I pay for a core rule book. So great value there. Definitely recommend checking that out. Especially too, even if you just like having physical copies of stuff, this is a great one to do that for. So really big shout out there for that. That's definitely one of my favorite roses. Is just how much it came with it because I didn't read the description before I bought it. I thought I was just pretty much getting dice in the book. It was cool to see how much came with that. With that too, kind of go a little bit more into the nuts and the bolts of the system. It's an OSR style game, D20 based. So if you roll with the rolling low, works better for you. So Nat 1 is a crit success, a dragon, Nat 20 a demon. So kind of cool on that side. I love D20 systems, so I'm glad that this one had that involved too. Uh, one of the things I think that kind of stood out to me a little bit, you saw a touch on this in our mechanics video, is the magic system. I thought they had an interesting magic system, a little bit more robust than I've seen from a lot of the old school style games. I was hoping somebody from our actual play would play a magic user. I may, in my solo play one, pick that to kind of dive into that a little bit more. I'm not sure if this is a rose or a bud because it seems really interesting from just my mechanics read, but I do want to see how that plays out of the table. It's just a little bit different from a lot of the OSRs that I've seen, a little bit more built out, I'll say on that side. So it's definitely something I want to kind of dive into a little bit more and kind of see how that plays on the table. Uh, a couple of the big things I like too. I like the quick resolution system. This is another one where you're rolling against your target number versus the game master setting a DC. So players can kind of once they know what the skill is, and kind of the game master gives them the go ahead to roll. There's no wait for adjudicating it. They know exactly if it's a success, a failure. I do like that. I kind of think it speeds up combat, speeds up even the adventuring phases a bit. And I think for OSRs, that's one of the things I like about them too. The faster you can make kind of going through these pieces, that more you can kind of get to the true, like either the art key, the adventuring parts, kind of the big pieces that really matter for when you're at the table. The other big thing I like too, this is the first OSR I've noticed before. There may be others, or may have even forgotten others I've reviewed here. But I liked how there was a difference between kind of like big monster rules, as well as like your typical enemy rules. So if you watched our actual play, we had three fights, two of them with big monsters and one of them with regular enemies. So we'll pick on the skeletons first. The skeletons had bows and spears, I think, and they pretty much just followed the rules that characters do. They had to roll a d20 and they had to roll under their bow skill or their spear skill to see if they would hit. And if they hit, they did some damage, pretty much just the same as PCs. I liked the monster rules as a way to kind of differentiate like big monsters, whether it be demons or trolls, from this. Because with those, you'd have like a d6 sheet and you'd roll a d6 and see what option came up, and that'd be what the monster did on their turn. And with theirs, they usually automatically hit. Some of them had saving throws, like the demon that we fought had a will save where you had to kind of fight against being possessed. But if it is just for pure damage, or if it's kind of a lesser effect, I've noticed it just happens. And I like that for monsters because it makes them threatening. I liked also kind of on top of that too the ferocity rating, which is how many turns your monster gets per round. I think we may have ruled that a little bit wrong. I think I was supposed to draw a card for them during the actual play, but we didn't do that for that side. But I like that because it differentiates that side and it really kind of shows like the monsters are threats. They're able to do cool stuff and mixes it up from regular play. So definitely for game masters who can be running the system, mix in some of the skeletons, those lesser enemy creatures, I should say, and then definitely leave room for those big monsters to shine with their crazy abilities on that side. With this too, one of the other things I really like too, I think I've mentioned this, but I really want to shout it out. It's very easy character build. Some games, and I love my crunchy games. You guys know I'm a huge Pathfinder fan, Mutants and Masterminds. But with the OSR and Dragonbane in particular, it's very easy to go through and build a character, which I found can be a pretty big barrier of entry to people trying new systems, is how complex it is to build a character. With those ones, and I like how they have the roll tables, you can go through and just kind of keep rolling until you have your PC. It's always kind of fun, I think, for one shots to do that, just to kind of see what find your PC versus coming in with the concept. So they made it easy. I liked how they did that. And I think that's just kind of a cool way to have it all set up. The last big rose I'll give to, and we didn't really get a chance to get into this into our videos or with the one shot since it's a one shot, but I like their advancement rules too. With the advancement rules, basically, whenever you get a nat 1 or a nat 20, so a dragon or a demon on a roll, you basically mark an advancement point within that skill. So let's say we rolled spears. I nat one that, I crit to see, get my dragon there. I would mark that for advancement. And at the end of the session, you basically have a conversation with your game master where you kind of see if it's worth if you've had a session where you're worth advancing your skills. Because not everyone may be, but it's kind of how'd you contribute to the session, all of that. Uh, but if they do say you advance, you get to kind of roll your d20, and if you roll higher than the skill, so a little bit different than usual. Usually you want to roll below the skill, but this time if you roll higher than the skill, you get to bump it up to 1 all the way up to 18. So I thought that's kind of cool. I've really been kind of vibing with systems lately that allow you to advance the skills that you utilize. And I think that's a really cool way to do that. But those are my core roses for the system. Overall, I really liked Dragonbane. It's smooth, good OSR style feel, but it's a little bit more. Oh, and actually, one thing I want to add another rose to: the combat's a little bit more complex than other OSRs. There's a lot of options that you have within, from between the dodging and parrying, the different things you can do with the melee weapons and your willpower skills and heroic abilities and magic that you can bust out. Uh, it has some complexity to it, and sometimes I feel like the OSRs they simplify, but sometimes they cut out some of the uh, character options and customization features, and I think this one kept that in there a little bit. So I liked that. I liked how they did that. So definitely a huge rose on that side. Yeah, definitely one I enjoyed, one I'd have in my kind of repertoire to keep bust out, especially for one shot things where people can build their PCs quickly and get right into the fray. But now we're going to touch on my buds and then some of the thorns, things that may not have clicked with me. So the bud's my biggest bud, and I did promise you guys a video on this, and it's still to come, probably next week. I am a huge fan of solo play systems, and Dragonbane comes with its own solo play rules as well as an adventure. So I'm going to be going through and doing a solo play video to show you how to set up the solo play for Dragonbane, and then I'm going to be running that adventure. I'm hoping to do that sometime next week, at least for the video. I'm not sure when I'll be able to get to the actual play. I'm hoping this weekend, depending on what time allows. So keep an eye out for that. That's a huge bud for me. I've done it with Symbaroum. Actually, pretty much all Free League games now that I think about it. Symbaroum, The One Ring. There's somebody I'm forgetting right now too, and it's just a cool experience to be able to go through and just kind of build a whole session yourself and utilize the rules they've got there. So keep an eye out. That's soon to come. That was and other kind of minor bud there too is I want to explore the magic system a little bit more. I was kind of intrigued when I was going through the mechanics video, and I think that's something that's a little bit unique for OSRs. So I'm hoping to do that during our solo play adventure. Uh, Outside of that, those are the big buds I had. So we'll kind of dive into some of the thorns, the things that may not have clicked with me on this side. And one of them, this is super nitpicky, and this is probably the for a lot of you who may not be Americans, it's probably like this is fair play. This is the time that kind of our comeuppance here. The metric system was a little bit it was different, not confusing. I'll say it was just different, especially when it came to grid play. I actually shout outs to the Year Zero Discord. They were able to help me figure out exactly how many squares you could move on a map with that. Geometry was never my best subject. But yeah, it was a little bit different. I'm used to feet and meters were a little bit different on that side. But after kind of clarifying that 2 meters was a square and kind of going through all that, everything made a lot more sense. And it was easy on that side. But yeah, so definitely fair play on that side. I know I've read a lot of like Pathfinder 5e, most system comments where it's like, why is it always in feet? And so I definitely feel a very, very small portion of your pain there. Now for some more kind of like true thorns on that side. One of the big things I would like for this system, and maybe like small line resources already on there for it, is a little bit more balancing tools for the encounters. Because one of the things I've been saying this is an OSR style game, but your PCs have a little, at least from what I found from my one shot, is your PCs have a little bit more survivability than a lot of OSRs do. They have a little bit more HP. They're able to take some decent damage and all of that. Because with our combat with the skeletons, when I had like 6 skeletons, 2 of them being archers against the 5 party members, I was a little bit worried that that would be a pretty. I was worried we'd have some deaths or some pretty dire straits there. But with the PCs be able to bust out their abilities and kind of run through that, it actually became a little bit trivial. So that would be one thing I would enjoy. And I didn't see it in the book when I was going through and kind of doing my notes. It's just a little bit more on how to balance that because I feel like a lot of people coming like myself kind of expected that more deadly OSR feel would go a little bit lighter on the gas. Where this one you did a little. They've got PCs have good abilities. They've got decent survivability. They can do great damage. It's good to kind of push the gas a little bit harder than you may expect. So small thorn there, but definitely a thorn. Another thorn, and this one's not really fair to the system, but this is more towards Foundry. The Foundry module for Dragonbane was hard to set up. I went through it. I bought the expansion pack too, or whatever, the rule book for Foundry too, so we could have like all the skills, weapons, classes already in there. Setting that up was a little bit weird compared to other modules I bought. Same thing too with when it came to setting up your character sheet and kind of designating your training skills. It was easy to kind of click and designate your skills for advancement, but it was difficult. I had to like do some playing around and reaching out to Discord to figure out how to set it up to make sure your train skills would come up on your character page. So small complaint there. Usually Foundry is super easy to use, but this one was a little bit more difficult there. But overall, I was pretty happy with the system. My only other minor thorn I would say and I found kind of a little bit later that there's more of this in the adventure packet, but I wish there was more of the world, the Misty Vale lore in the core rulebook itself. Or even, and I may look online too, because I like the lore that I read. This kind of rose too. I like the lore that I read for the Misty Vale. I just wish there was more of it in an easy to consume way. In the core rulebook, there's only just kind of 2 pages that kind of set up the premise. And I was skimming through the adventure book, and I know there's a lot more in there, but I would love it just kind of agnostic from the adventure, a good way for game masters who may not like to run preset adventures to be able to get the lore, kind of experience this world a little bit easier. But outside, just add some minor thoughts to this one. I like this one. If you're looking for a good OSR style game that has more options for your players, this is a great one to pick up. This can definitely be one you can jump into and kind of have players easily learn the system, still have some complexities they can bring, have tactics they can bring to bear, and tell some amazing adventures with it. So, highly recommend it there. But yeah, shout out in the comments what some of your favorite things with the Dragonbane system are. Definitely kind of curious to see what the community thinks on this one. But yeah, we'll be diving into our latest game of the month, 13th Age by I think Telegram is who makes this. 13th Age here. So we'll be starting that in January, going through it as always with our first impressions, character build, mechanics, and then a live actual play. I'm not sure when yet, but keep an eye out for that. But yeah, thanks for coming through. Drop a like, subscribe, check out some of our other actual plays too. We've got a pretty large library of them now. And then thanks for hanging out and until next time, everybody.